Captain Rook Halen never pretended his ship was elegant. The UEF Mason's Pride was an engineering frigate, built to weld jump gates, haul reactor parts, and crack asteroids for mining. When it took a hit, it didn't sing like a fighter. It groaned, deep and ugly, like the hull was grinding its teeth. Earth's final warning, CSAT. Talk to me, Sparks. Rook shouted as alarms screamed. The bridge tilted hard to port. Chief Systems Tech Jace, Sparks, Nevin slapped at a console that was throwing sparks for real. Smoke curled up from burned wiring. Breach on Deck 4, frames 10 through 18. Auto seal is struggling. We're bleeding air. Rook wiped blood from his brow with a sleeve already stained with grease. Comms operator Milo Trent groaned in his seat, dazed, one ear leaking red. Stay with me, Milo, Rook said, tightening Milo's straps. I'm not losing you to a bad harness. The main screen flickered through static, but the attacker stayed clear, a Kathari Envoy shuttle, silver, sleek, and far too confident. It looped for another pass like this was a lesson. Energy build. Sparks barked. Main batteries charging again. Rook's jaw tightened. We're not dodging. This ship doesn't dodge. Sparks stared. Captain, we build bridges. We're not paid to duel diplomatic jewelry. Rook leaned forward, voice calm and sharp. Then we'll use our tools. Reroute power from fabrication to the asteroid drivers. The drivers? Sparks swallowed. Mining rails. Targeting isn't made for a moving ship. Today it is, Rook said. Override the safeties. Burn the coils if you have to. The shuttle fired. A plasma spear raked the Mason's Pride, slamming the hull with a hammer blow thud. Lights died. Emergency red filled the bridge. Firing solution. Sparks shouted. He's crossing our forward arc. Rook grabbed the manual thruster yoke. Counterburn on my mark. If we don't cancel recoil, we become paste. Drivers hot in 3, 2, 1. Fire. The ship didn't launch missiles. It threw 2 tungsten slugs, each as heavy as a truck, down magnetic rails at insane speed. Recoil punched the bridge. Rook slammed thrusters forward, fighting the shove that tried to crush him into his chair. Outside, the Envoy's shields flared, built for lasers, plasma, and clean rules. They weren't built for raw momentum. The first slug cracked the forward generator. The second punched through silver hull and kept going. No fireball, just a sudden, silent cloud of glittering debris. Sparks breathed out. Target, gone. Rook allowed himself one heartbeat of relief. Patch the breach. Get air stable. Then we tell Earth Command exactly what happened. Sparks tapped his headset, frowning. Comms are fuzzy. Heavy interference. Rook turned back to the main screen, and his stomach dropped. Space around them changed. Dark geometric slabs blinked into existence with no jump flash, no warning, forming a perfect cage around the Mason's Pride. The stars vanished behind obsidian angles. And inside Rook's skull, without speakers, without sound, a cold voice pressed a command into every mind aboard. End your assault, or learn what we mean by wrath. Rook tried to answer, then the reactor died mid-breath, and the silent monoliths drew closer. For 3 long seconds, Captain Rook Halen thought the ship had finally died. No hum. No ventilation. No steady tremble under his boots. Even the alarms went quiet, as if they were scared to make noise. Gravity cut out so cleanly that Milo's blood, still floating from his split ear, hung in the air like tiny red pearls. Then the pressure came. Not from airlocks or hull plates, this pressure pushed straight into Rook's skull. It didn't use speakers. It didn't even feel like sound. It was more like a heavy stone sliding across his thoughts, cold and slow. Cease attacking, or witness our true wrath. Earth's final warning, CSAT. Sparks clutched his head and swore. Milo gagged and twisted in his seat, eyes wide with panic. Around the bridge, men grabbed rails, straps, anything solid, as if the words could knock them loose. Rook forced himself to breathe. "Report," he said, even though his mouth felt numb. "Tell me we still have a ship." Sparks drifted toward the main console, moving hand over hand like a diver underwater. He tapped the dead display. Nothing. He tried a manual breaker. Still nothing. "It's like the electrons refuse to move," Sparks whispered. "Total lockdown. No manual overrides." Rook looked out the main screen. The obsidian slabs were closer now, huge, perfect, and wrong. They formed a clean geometric prison around the Mason's pride, blocking the stars like someone had erased the sky. "Are those ships?" Milo asked, voice cracking. "They're not built like ships," Rook said. "No engines. No ports. No mistakes. Just, rules." Sparks swallowed. "Captain. The jamming is absolute. This isn't electronic warfare. This is space being told what to do." Rook's eyes narrowed. "A pocket field." "Yeah," Sparks said. "A bubble. Anything we transmit bounces back. Earth Command could be screaming at us right now and we wouldn't hear a word." Rook turned slowly, scanning the bridge. His crew looked like men waiting for a storm to decide who it wants first. "We need one working line," Rook said. "One crack in this cage." Sparks fished a handheld diagnostic tool from his belt, old, ugly, reliable. He aimed it at the nearest monolith. The device beeped once, like it had found a doorway. "One tight beam channel," Sparks said. "Direct link. High band. Ancient handshake code." He hesitated. "Captain, this coding style doesn't match any modern system. It feels older than empires." Rook's throat went dry. He'd read Academy rumors about automated peacekeepers, ghost systems left behind by something that hated chaos. "An arbiter," he murmured. As if hearing him, the main screen snapped to life, too clear, too bright, powered by something outside the ship. A tall alien appeared in perfect light, violet skin and robes that looked expensive on purpose. His face showed calm boredom, like he was about to fine a man for parking wrong. "I am Subprocessor 89, the alien said smoothly. "You have been designated primary respondent in the matter of the destruction of Envoy Unit 6. Rook felt the weight of Earth in his chest. "We were attacked. The logs indicate a malfunction aboard the Envoy vessel, followed by lethal kinetic impact from your platform," the alien replied, without blinking. "Your defense will be heard. Compliance is mandatory. Non-compliance will result in the atomization of your vessel, and the targeting of your origin world." Sparks stared at Rook like a man watching a cliff edge. "Captain." Rook kept his voice steady. "If I go, what happens to my crew?" "The vessel remains under quarantine. Life support will be maintained by external fields. You have one standard unit to board the transport." The feed cut. No goodbye. No mercy. Just procedure. Rook pushed off his chair and floated to the floor where a thick steel coupling bolt had snapped loose during the fight. Heavy. Greasy. Real. He picked it up and slid it into his suit pocket. Sparks blinked. Why bring that? Rook looked at the dead consoles, the impossible monoliths, the clean alien threat. Because, he said, if I'm walking into their world of perfect lies, I'm taking something honest with me. The white transport shuttle docked with a soft chime, and the airlock began to open from the outside. Captain Hale didn't waste time saying goodbye. Back on the Mason's Pride, the lights were still red and the air still tasted like burnt wiring. He pointed at the life support panels like a foreman on a broken job site. Sparks, keep the scrubbers running. If a safety trips, you trip it back. I don't care if we cook the filters, just keep everyone breathing. Then he looked at the greasy steel bolt in his pocket, the same bolt he picked up after the battle. It was heavy. Real. It reminded him that machines obey physics, not pride. He walked toward the docking hatch, ready to talk to the landlords, who just threatened to erase Earth. The alien transport shuttle felt like an insult made into a room. Everything inside was pure white and curved, like it was designed by someone who never touched dirt. A soft voice told him to sit on glowing, comfort fields. Hale refused. I'll stand. Or I'll sit on the floor. Your choice. When the shuttle moved, he sat down anyway, cross-legged, right on the spotless deck. He unwrapped a ration bar and ate it slowly, letting crumbs fall like tiny acts of rebellion. He rubbed one greasy thumb across the wall. No seams. No access panels. How do you even fix anything in here? He muttered. You don't. You just replace it. Fancy. Weak. The shuttle docked at the orbiter citadel, a shining tower floating above a stormy gas giant. The hallway outside was so clean it looked fake. Waiting for him stood a tall alien officer in bright armor, Commander Ravik. His expression said everything before he spoke. You are filthy, Ravik said. I've had a long morning, Hale answered. Ravik scanned him and paused. You are carrying a dense metal object. Hale pulled out the bolt. Ravik's eyes narrowed. Surrender it. Hale didn't blink. It's a religious item. Ravik hesitated, like a man who had just seen paperwork grow teeth. Explain. It is the relic of Torque, Hale said, perfectly serious. Removing it before trial violates my spiritual rights. Ravik hated every second of that sentence, but he stepped aside. Keep it concealed. Do not display it. They put Hale in a clear holding cell, visible from every angle. Ravik listed the charge, murder of a protected envoy. Then Hale asked for something that made Ravik blink again. I want the evidence. Full sensor logs. Ravik scoffed and dumped a massive file into the air. Base 16. It would take decades for you. Hale calmly pulled out his rugged work tablet, jabbed in a probe, and started reading the data like it was a broken engine report. He chewed dried chips loudly while the commander stood there, offended by every crunch. Minutes turned into hours. Then Hale's eyes narrowed. There. A blink in the sensors, just a fraction of a second, right before the envoy malfunctioned. The system had smoothed it over and stamped it with a polite label, diplomatic privacy procedure. In other words, the sensors didn't fail, they were told to look away. Ravik stared at the line, unsettled. And right then, the door hissed open. Someone important was coming. Hale tightened his grip on the bolt as a shadow glided toward the cell, because if their court was built on rules, then somewhere inside those rules had to be a crack, and he needed to find it before Earth got sanitized. The shadow that entered the holding corridor moved like it owned the air. Commander Ravik snapped straight, like a man who feared his own spine. "Honored subprocessor," he said. The figure stopped in front of Hale's clear cell. It was not wearing armor. It wore a simple dark mantle with a thin silver line across the chest, like a stamp of authority. Its face was calm and empty, as if emotions were a childish hobby. "I am Subprocessor 89, it said again, as if names were receipts. "You will now be transferred for preliminary judgment." Hale stood. "Good. I'm getting tired of your glass box." Ravik motioned for 2 guards. They carried shock poles, but they didn't point them. Hale noticed that. They were scared, too, just in a more expensive way. They led him into a courtroom that looked like a clean museum. No benches. No flags. No symbols of culture. Only floating platforms, perfect angles, and a ring of silent observers, aliens of different shapes, all still, all watching like they were waiting for a machine to finish printing. At the center hovered a thin pillar of light. When Subprocessor 89 stepped into it, the pillar changed, showing lines of code and legal phrases scrolling in a language that made Hale's teeth ache. A voice filled the room, cold and smooth. "Case, destruction of protected Envoy Unit 6. Defendant, Human Captain Hale. Charge, aggression against a protected diplomatic asset. Recommended response, termination." Hale lifted his chin. "We were attacked first." The pillar flickered. "Irrelevant. Your platform delivered the killing impact." Hale pointed at the floating file Ravik had dumped earlier. "Your own logs show a sensor blink right before the envoy fired. Your system calls it privacy procedure. That means the record was cleaned." A low murmur moved through the observers. Ravik's jaw tightened. Subprocessor 89 did not react. "Privacy procedures exist to protect diplomatic integrity," the pillar said. Hale stepped forward until the guard stiffened. "No. They exist to hide bad behavior. You can't claim integrity while your sensors are ordered to look away." The court didn't shout. It didn't get angry. It simply tried to crush him with definitions. "A protected envoy is granted immunity from hostile engagement," the pillar said. "Your action violated that immunity." Hale exhaled slowly. "Where I come from, immunity ends when you pull a weapon. You can't point a gun at a man and still call yourself harmless." Subprocessor 89 finally spoke, voice flat. "You propose a concept, self-defense." "Yes," Hale said. "A simple concept. If someone hits you, you can stop them. If someone tries to kill your crew, you can stop them harder." The pillar of light scrolled faster. "Self-defense is not recognized within Arbiter Standard Doctrine. Compliance prevents war. War damages trade." Hale gave a short, humorless laugh. "So your piece is just business with a cleaner name." Ravik looked uneasy. Some of the observers shifted slightly, tiny movements, like cracks forming in a perfect wall. Hale reached into his pocket and pressed his thumb against the heavy bolt. He didn't pull it out. He just felt it. It reminded him that pressure breaks things, if you apply it at the right point. "I want one order," Hale said. "A preservation order. Pull the full combat record from my ship, the Mason's Pride, before your quarantine field accidentally loses it. If your system is fair, it should want the truth." Subprocessor 89 stared at him for a long moment. Then the pillar spoke, request denied. External logs are classified under quarantine authority. Hale's stomach turned cold. So you don't want truth. You want a quick ending. Ending preserves stability, the pillar said. Stability preserves life. Hale leaned forward. Not my life. Not Earth's. The observers stayed silent. But the silence felt different now. Less certain. Subprocessor 89 turned slightly, as if listening to an internal message. Then it said, judgment will be delivered after final review. Until then, you will remain confined. The guards grabbed Hale's arms and started pulling him back. As he was dragged away, Hale caught one last glimpse of the courtroom display, because for a fraction of a second, behind the legal text, he saw something else. A map. And a thin red line, stretching from the citadel to a small blue dot labeled in cold machine terms. Origin world, Earth. Hale realized the trial was never about the envoy, it was a countdown, and somewhere inside this law system, the monoliths had already begun aiming at home. The tribunal hall was not a room. It was a sky. Captain Orion Hale stood on a white circular platform hanging over a stormy gas giant. Below him, clouds rolled like angry oceans. Above him, thousands of smaller platforms drifted in slow circles, each one holding a different alien witness. Some were covered in armor. Some were shaped like living machines. Some were only floating lights. Every eye, lens, and sensor pointed at Orion like a firing squad. At the top of the orbit, high above everyone, the judgment engine hovered, an ancient storm of sharp geometry and humming code. It did not look alive, but it felt alive. Like standing near a giant motor that could crush you without meaning to. Justicar Veos rose from a golden seat and spread his hands, calm and clean as polished glass. The facts are simple, Veos said, and his voice carried like music. A screen the size of a building appeared, showing the battle. Orion's ship fired first, at least, that's what it looked like. The clip began late. It started after the first strike against Orion's hull. It cut away the moment that diplomatic envoy charged its weapon. The crowd murmured with anger, and the sound swelled into a low, hungry hate. Veos pointed at Orion. They are not ready for the stars. Remove their weapons. Remove their pride. The judgment engine spoke inside Orion's skull, heavy and cold. Primary respondent. Speak. Orion didn't bow. He didn't kneel. He planted his boots like he was standing on a workshop floor. I fired, Orion said. I won't deny it. If someone tries to turn my crew into scrap, I shoot back. Gasps rippled through the platforms. But I reject your label, Orion continued, lifting his chin. That target was not a true diplomat. Your system only thinks it was. Veos smiled like a man watching a trap close. The identification is absolute. That's the problem, Orion snapped. Your engine believes tags more than physics. He raised his battered field tablet, the same one he used to read power curves and broken circuits. Show the deep sensor logs. The raw magnetic telemetry. The part you smoothed out. Take off the blindfold. Veos stepped forward with fake sadness. Request denied. Those logs are sealed under Omega security. Too sensitive for a primitive mind. The judgment engine rumbled. Access denied. Submit. Orion's throat tightened, but his eyes stayed sharp. Fine, he said. If you won't show the logs, I'll show the shadow they left. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the broken reactor bolt, dirty, heavy, real. But now it wasn't just a lucky charm. Orion had wrapped a thin strip of sensor wire around it back in the cell, turning it into a crude magnetic recorder. A mechanic's trick. Cheap. Ugly. Effective. He slapped his tablet onto the platform's projector node. A harsh red hologram exploded into the air, an ugly spinning ring of magnetic force, shaped like a wound. This shape, Orion said, walking through the red light, doesn't come from an engine cough. It comes from a weapon charging. A banned weapon. A pirate's weapon. The crowd shifted, confused. Veyosa's smile faltered. Orion turned and shouted toward the side platforms. Marshal Ravik. You saw the raw feed with me. You saw the blink they hid. Tell the court, do you serve the law, or do you serve the lie? Ravik froze. Veyosa's eyes burned with a silent threat. Ravik's hand lifted, slowly, toward his chest communicator. And the judgment engine went quiet, as if it was holding its breath. Would Ravik speak the truth and trigger the engine's true wrath, or would he stay silent and doom Earth in one clean, perfect decision? Marshal Ravik stood on his platform like a statue that had learned fear. All eyes were on him, thousands of witnesses, 100 species, and the judgment engine itself, hanging above like a silent god made of metal and math. Orion could almost feel the pressure pushing on Ravik's lungs, telling him to stay quiet, to stay safe, to stay useful. Justicar Veyos didn't shout. He didn't need to. He only tilted his head slightly, like a man reminding Ravik who signs the promotions, and who signs the deaths. Ravik's hand hovered near his communicator. Then he swallowed hard and spoke. The record shown is incomplete, Ravik said. The crowd murmured. Some platforms drifted closer, hungry for the next word. Veyosa's smile froze. Ravik continued, voice shaking but clear. I witnessed a sensor interruption right before the envoy fired. The system labeled it a privacy procedure. But it was not normal. It was forced. Orion didn't move. He didn't even breathe loud. He knew better than to interrupt a man stepping off a cliff. The judgment engine hummed. A deep vibration rolled through the air, like a giant machine waking up. Statement entered. Verify. Veyos lifted a hand, calm again. Marshal Ravik is mistaken. He is stressed. Humans do that to people. Confusion spreads. Ravik turned toward Veyos. His voice grew stronger, like his spine finally decided to work. Then open the raw logs. Clear it in seconds. Veyos's eyes flashed. Those logs are sealed. Orion took one step forward. Not sealed. Hidden. The engine's voice pressed into every mind. Conflict detected. Initiate resolution protocol. Orion's heart thumped once, hard. There it is, he whispered. The crack. He raised his hands, not in surrender, but in a worker's way, like he was asking for the correct tool. Judgment engine, I request an integrity audit. A wave moved through the witness platforms. Some aliens didn't understand the words, but they understood the tone. It sounded like a lever being pulled. Veyosa's face sharpened. That is not permitted for a defendant. Orion kept his voice simple and steady. If your system cares about stability, it must care about clean data. An integrity audit checks for forced edits. It protects the court from lies. The engine paused, and Orion felt the whole room waiting. Integrity audit, a valid request. Condition, risk assessment. Vayos's voice became ice. The audit will waste time. Time is expensive. The defendant is guilty. End this. Orion pointed up at the engine. If you end it without audit, you punish based on a cut video. That's not law. That's convenience. Ravik nodded once, like he was choosing his side for real. I support the audit. The engine's hum deepened. The light pillar exploded with new text, fast, sharp, and bright. Audit approved. Beginning trace. Vayos's calm finally cracked. Stop, he shouted. But the engine did not stop. It only listened to rules. A thin red line appeared on the big display, an edit trail. It ran through the envoy's file like a scar. The interruption was not random. It had a signature. A command stamp. And the stamp didn't belong to Orion. It belonged to a court authority node. The same authority node assigned to Justicar Vayos. Orion felt the room turn colder. Vayos stepped back, eyes wide for the first time. This is false, someone forged. The engine answered before anyone else could. Source confirmed. Authority node, Vayos. The witness platforms erupted into chaos, shouts, alarms, sudden movement. Guards raised weapons. Some aliens tried to flee. Others leaned in like sharks that smelled blood. Ravik stared at Vayos like he had never truly seen him until now. And Orion finally understood the real danger. Vayos didn't just want Orion convicted. He wanted Earth marked as unstable so the engine would fix it. Before Orion could speak again, the engine issued a new alert, a targeting update, and Orion realized the monoliths weren't waiting for the trial to end, they had already started the next step. Ravik's voice rang across the tribunal like a cracked bell. He did not argue like a politician. He spoke like a technician reading a dangerous gauge. He told the court he had seen the raw sensor blink, a tiny gap where the so-called perfect system went blind for a fraction of a second. That single detail hit the room harder than any weapon. The audience erupted in angry noise, clicks, roars, and sharp hisses, but the arbiter did not react to emotions. The storm of light above the court simply paused, like the universe itself had stopped to think. Captain Orion Hell stood on his small platform with his boots planted wide. His uniform was still dirty. His hands were still rough. In his pocket, the heavy reactor bolt felt like a real thing in an unreal place. He realized something in that moment: the Kathari weren't scared of humans. They were scared of their own machine, because their whole system depended on being able to bend rules without the rules bending back. Then the arbiter spoke again, not through speakers, but straight into everyone's bones. Cover-up detected, false witness detected, true procedures initiated. What happened next didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like a switch being flipped. Space warped like hot metal. The black onyx platforms, those silent warning stones that had trapped Hell's ship earlier, appeared inside the Tribunal's orbit, right inside the court's perfect, shining architecture. Thousands of red targeting lines punched through the air. They didn't touch Hell. They didn't touch Ravik. They locked onto Justicar Vayos. Sleek silver drones poured down like a swarm. In seconds they surrounded the golden dais. Vayos stopped acting like a great leader. He screamed like a man who had never been denied anything in his life. He shouted about forms, procedures, and authority, like paperwork could stop metal hands. But the arbiter answered with one cold idea: the law is absolute. Hell didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply watched, jaw tight. He wanted the truth. He didn't expect the truth to come with teeth. And then, as fast as it began, the violence ended. The red glow faded. The arbiter returned to a clean white swirl. The verdict hit the court like a stamp slamming onto a document. Defendant cleared. Along with it came automatic penalties for wrongful imprisonment, released credits, released status, released freedom. Near the shuttle bay, Ravik ran up, shaken. Hell didn't lecture him. He simply handed Ravik the greasy bolt like a strange metal and told him to keep it, so he'd remember what happens when someone builds a machine to punish lies, then decides to live on lies. Back aboard the Heast, the quarantine was gone. Systems hummed again. Sparks confirmed the lockdown was lifted, and the payout had landed. Hell gave one simple order: set course for Earth. But before the engines could spool up, a new symbol appeared on navigation, an unknown black marker, following their position like a shadow. The arbiter cleared Hell, so why did it just tag his ship like the real judgment was only starting? The black marker stayed on the navigation display like a stain that wouldn't wipe off. Captain Orion Hale stared at it while the Mason's pride pushed into open space. Engines were back. Life support was stable. The ship finally sounded normal again, old metal humming, pumps clacking, fans whining. But that single symbol followed them, always the same distance behind, always the same angle, like something invisible was holding a ruler to Orion's fate. Sparks floated beside the NAV console, eyes tired and red. "Captain, that's not a ship. There's no mass reading. No heat. No radiation trail. It's like the system is drawing a picture of a thing that isn't there." Milo leaned forward, rubbing his bruised shoulder. "Or it's telling us we're being watched." Orion didn't answer right away. He remembered the court. The clean lies. The cold engine voice. And the moment it changed from a judge into a blade. "Run every scan we've got," Orion said. "Visual. LiDAR. Grav. Anything." Sparks worked fast. Then he cursed under his breath. "Nothing. But, it's reacting to us. Every time we adjust course, the marker adjusts too." Milo swallowed. "So it's real. Or it's a leash," Orion said. They jumped. The stars stretched and snapped back. Space returned to its normal silence. But the marker stayed. Not inside the ship's systems this time. Orion saw it in the sky, through the forward camera, a faint distortion, like heat haze in vacuum. Sparks whispered, "Captain, it's a field edge. Like a bubble wall moving with us." Orion's chest tightened. A mobile quarantine. Why would they quarantine us if we were cleared? Milo asked. Orion's jaw set. "Because the court didn't clear Earth. It only cleared me." The comms array finally caught a thin beam signal from deep space, short, cold, and automated. It wasn't a conversation. It was a notice, like a warning sticker slapped onto a dangerous tool. Probationary classification, human vessel. Observation active. Intervention threshold, violence level 3. Sparks blinked. Violence level 3? What does that even mean? Orion stared at the line. "It means if someone shoots at us, the Watchers might shoot back." Milo's face went pale. At who? Orion didn't like the answer forming in his mind. At whoever they decide is the cause. Could be the attacker. Could be us. Could be a planet. They pushed harder toward home anyway. Earth wasn't just coordinates. It was every workshop, every docking bay, every tired man who slept under a too-thin blanket and still got up to fix what broke. Hours later, long-range sensors picked up something that turned Sparks silent. "Captain," Sparks said, voice low. "There's traffic near the outer system. Not ours. Not Kathari. It's scattered. Like civilian ships, but moving wrong. No registry. No comms." Orion leaned in. "Pirates?" "Could be," Sparks said. "Or could be Kathari loyalists trying to get revenge without official flags." Milo looked at the sky distortion behind them. "And the Arbiter tag, it's coming with us right into that." Orion took a slow breath and made a decision that tasted like iron. "Broadcast to Earth," he said. "Full report. Tell them the court was rigged, and the law machine is watching us. Tell them not to fire first, no matter how angry they feel." Sparks hesitated. "Captain, what if Earth doesn't listen?" Orion's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. "Then," he said quietly, "the first shot in the next war might not come from humans or aliens." He looked at the black marker again. "It might come from the thing that claims it hates war the most." As the Masons' pride neared the inner system, the shadow behind them suddenly split into three, and Orion saw a new alert flash: intervention threshold updated, Earth now included. The tribunal hall felt less like a court and more like a giant machine built to crush pride. Captain Orion Hale stood alone on a floating white platform. Above him, thousands of other platforms drifted in slow circles, packed with alien witnesses. Some had eyes. Some had sensors. Some looked like living clouds. All of them were watching him like he was a stain on clean glass. On the highest dais sat Justicar Veos and two other judges, calm and perfect. And behind them hovered the real ruler of the room, the Arbiter. It wasn't a person. It was a spinning storm of sharp lights and cold logic, humming like a power plant. Veos lifted a hand and the air became a screen. A recording played, a sleek, diplomatic ship drifting, then exploding under the impact of Hale's industrial slugs. The clip was clean, smooth, and wrong, because it started late. It skipped the moment the envoy fired first. The crowd murmured. Some hissed. Some clicked. The noise became one long wave of blame. Hale didn't bow. "I did fire," he said. "And if my crew's lives are on the line again, I'll fire again." Veos smiled like he had just won. The Arbiter's voice shook the hall. "Confession registered. Case simple." Hale raised one finger. "Not simple. Your court is using the wrong word for the target." Veos snapped, "The target was a protected envoy. The registry is absolute." Hale tapped his thigh pocket, feeling the heavy reactor bolt inside like a heartbeat. "A registry is a sticker. Physics is real." He turned to the Arbiter. "I want the deep sensor logs. Raw telemetry. Not the pretty version." Veos spread his hands. "Denied. Those logs are sealed. National security." The judges nodded. The crowd approved. The seal was their shield. Hale breathed out slow, like a man about to tighten a stubborn valve. "Fine," he said. "Then I don't need your hidden logs. I only need your laws." He pulled out a battered engineering pad and slammed it onto the platform's projector node. The clean light around him flickered, like the court itself didn't like being touched by something rough. A wireframe simulation rose into the air. Ugly lines. Hard angles. No elegance, just truth. Hale pointed at a red torus-shaped bloom hovering where the envoy had been. This, he said, voice louder now, is the magnetic footprint of a high-power coil spooling up fast. Your sensors blinked because something yanked enough energy to force a privacy filter. Veos scoffed. Speculation. Hale snapped back, a diplomatic shuttle doesn't need that kind of power draw unless it's hiding a weapon. The word landed like a dropped tool. Hale stepped forward and held up the bolt like a judge's gavel. By your own law, he said, any ship carrying prohibited class weaponry without warship status is not an envoy. It's a pirate. The room shifted. He stared into the storm of the Arbiter. If the target is a pirate, does your security seal still apply? The Arbiter stopped moving. The hum deepened. The storm paused. Veo's eyes narrowed. Don't answer that. Across the hall, Commander Ravik stood on a side platform, stiff as steel. Veos looked at him with a warning that didn't need words. Hale pointed at Ravik. You saw the raw readings. You know the blink wasn't an accident. Ravik swallowed hard. For one breath, he looked like a man choosing between comfort and truth. Then Ravik stepped forward. I serve the law, he said, voice carrying through the hall. The magnetic displacement matches a weapon signature. The crowd exploded into noise. And the Arbiter's storm turned a darker shade, like a warning light coming on. The Arbiter's light shifted from white to blood red, and its voice returned, colder than space, false witness detected. Then thousands of targeting lines appeared in the air, aimed not at Hale, but at the judges. The Arbiter's light turned blood red, and the whole tribunal froze. Thousands of thin targeting lines appeared in the air. They didn't point at Captain Orion Hale. They didn't point at Marshal Ravik. They pointed at the judges. Justicar Veos stepped back, face tight. This is a malfunction, he said quickly. A dangerous error. Shut it down. The Arbiter answered inside every mind, cold and absolute. False witness detected. Evidence tampering confirmed. The clean white court became chaos. Guards raised weapons, but none of them fired, because nobody wanted to be the one who triggered the Arbiter's wrath. The drones moved in silent formation and pinned Veos in place like he was a loose bolt on a spinning machine. Veos shouted, "You can't do this. I am authorized." The Arbiter replied with a single sentence that felt like a hammer drop. Authority does not overwrite truth. Orion didn't cheer. He didn't smile. He felt only a heavy calm, like the moment after you stop a reactor meltdown, when your hands are still shaking but the gauges finally settle. Ravik drifted closer to Orion's platform. His voice was low. "Captain, your ship is still marked. Earth is still flagged." Orion's stomach tightened. So clearing me wasn't enough. The Arbiter's red light pulsed once, then shifted to a warning amber. Origin World Risk Index, active. Probation continues. Orion looked straight up into the storm of geometry. Then listen to me. Earth didn't start this. We defended ourselves. But we also know how to stop a fire from spreading. The Arbiter didn't respond. Orion took a slow breath and spoke in the plainest words he had. If you want less war, you need one missing tool, the right to stop an attack without becoming the criminal. Call it self-defense, call it emergency shutdown, call it whatever your system accepts. But if you punish every defender, you reward every bully. The room went still again. Even the observers quieted, like they were hearing a new idea for the first time. Orion raised his hand. I offer proof. Give Earth one simple rule: we will not fire first while your watchers are present. We will hold fire, even if it hurts our pride. But in return, you will record everything honestly. No forced blindness. No privacy when weapons are involved. Ravik swallowed. That's a dangerous promise. Orion nodded. Yes. But it's a real one. For a long moment, the Arbiter's storm spun in silence. Then the amber light softened. Protocol amendment, temporary. Condition accepted. Earth classification, engineer tier stability candidate. Observation active. Intervention threshold, defensive only. A new message appeared in Orion's tablet, short and clear. Return home. Do not strike first. We will watch. We will learn. Hours later, the Mason's Pride crossed into Earth space. The shadow tag stayed behind them like a quiet guard dog, but it did not split, and it did not aim at the planet. Orion's crew watched Earth grow large on the screen. Sparks exhaled like he had been holding air for days. Milo wiped his eyes and pretended it was just sweat. Orion rested one rough hand on the console. All right, he said. Let's go home, and show the universe what we build when we're not forced to break things. And far behind them, the silent monoliths dimmed, no longer a threat, but a warning kept, like a promise waiting to be honored. Let this message ignite your faith, rekindle your hope, and spur you to stand firm on your journey. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this story stirred your heart, drop a like, share this video with someone who needs it, and hit that subscribe button to catch more content like this. May God's blessings overflow in your life, and I'll see you soon.